Hi guys, Kev here from KevLar Gaming. Today we've got an exciting build because we've actually managed to get hold of an RTX 3070 Founders Edition at retail price. So we've had a customer waiting for us to find a decent price graphics card for them for a while, so now we can finally get their build done. So we've got all the components here that we're going to be using. So we've got the Corsair iCue 220T RGB case. We're going with a Ryzen 5 3600, 16 gigabytes of 3200 MHz RAM, B450 motherboard, 1 TB hard drive, 500 gig NVMe, 700 watt power supply, and 2 extra fans. Also got a fan hub which isn't sitting here on the desk at the moment. So all the parts I'll be listing in the description below the video, and let's get into the build. Right, okay, so here we go. We've got the motherboard out of the box. We've got it sitting on top of its own box, on top of the anti-static wrapping, just to keep it safe. Here we've got our CPU. So first step, we're going to insert our CPU. So we're using the Ryzen CPU, so on Ryzen motherboards, first of all, we unclip the little clip here. Then on our CPU, we look out for the triangle and line that up with the triangle on the motherboard. Here, drop it in. And there you go, that's in place. Turn the lever. There you go, CPU is in. Right now, depending on what cooler you're going to use, well, you need to put it on now. If you're using an AIO, you wouldn't put it on yet. If you're using a tower or some sort of other fan cooler, that will go on next. And also depending on what sort of cooler you've got, whether you need to keep these brackets on or not. The tower cooler we're using doesn't need those brackets, so we're going to remove those. Okay, and then remove the back plate that we don't need for this cooler. Okay, so here is the plastic back plate I need for this cooler, so I'm going to put that in place. There we go, I've got some washers to go on, and I've got these I need to screw on. Okay, so they're all screwed on, just hand tight. Right, so now we'll put a blob of our thermal paste on, ready to install the cooler. I like the P method, which is just a blob in the middle, about the size of a pea. And then, yeah, make a mess of it like that. Come on. Right, so the cooler we've got a tower cooler, so I need to sit that on top of the CPU like so. I've got some screws to screw it down. Right, so let's line it up and let that sit on top of the CPU and then get screwing. Right, so I'm going to put them on lightly first, doing the alternate sides. I don't want the cooler to move around too much on top of that CPU because I don't want this thermal paste to get too messy. I want it to evenly spread out on the CPU as it gets squashed down. Right, let's just screw them by hand first just to tighten them up. Right, now as I'm screwing this down, those of you with keen eyes probably spotted something. Did you spot this logo there? First time round, it was upside down, now it's the right way around. So yeah, bit of an outtake. I noticed it as I was screwing it in, so I've just had to take it off, clean the thermal paste up, turn it round and do it again. I mean, yeah, I could have just turned it round and put it on, but I don't like doing that. I like to have the thermal paste fresh every time you put one on. So now I'm using the screwdriver just to finish off screwing it in. Right, so just screwing it until basically it won't let me screw anymore. No, I'm not forcing it, I'm just screwing it until it stops. Right, so I'm not putting any force in that at all. Right, so that's our cooler on. Right, so instead of going with the fan that comes with that cooler, I'm using a Corsair SP120 RGB fan that matches the fans that come with the case. So stick that on, that's going to go on the front here. So the air is coming this way, so it's blowing the air through the cooler out to be exhausted at the back of the case. Okay, so we just want to think about where the cables are, so I'm going to have them coming out the bottom at the top. Got these little brackets, came with the cooler, I just need to clip on. That clips onto the fan, clips onto the tower. There we go. Then we've got the fan cable, plugging that onto the CPU fan header on the motherboard. Then the other cables for the RGB, that will go out the back later. We'll tidy up the cables later as well. Okay, final thing to do outside of the case is to install the RAM. Case, we've got 2 sticks of 8 gigabytes. Right, so you'll see here this motherboard has 4 slots for RAM. Now this is quite good because they've color coded them for us. I think a lot of motherboard manufacturers will do that now, just to make sure that you put them in the right slots. So you'll see the colours are alternated, so we've got 2 darker ones there. So first one, skip, third one are both dark, second one, skip, fourth one are both lighter colour. That's because you're supposed to put the RAMs in those alternating slots if you're only using 2 of the slots. Obviously if you're using all 4 then it doesn't matter. If you're only using 2, so always start with the outer slot, skip 1 and then populate it in the next slot. Okay, so we're going to open the 2 slots that we're going to use by using these little clips. Have a look closer at the RAM. You'll see this side before the little gap in the middle is shorter than this side, so that will help you line it up and know what way to put it in. So we can see there's a little slot there in the RAM slot. I'm going to start off with the inside slot, it's going to be easier to reach. Line that up. Firm push on both sides until you get a click. There you go. Actually, if you look there, I haven't clicked that side in properly because you can see that hasn't fully closed, so let's just push that down. There you go, so that clicked. Okay, same with the outer one. Line it up. Firm push till you get a click. You know, that was quite unsatisfying. It's always nice when you get a nice firm click both sides as you go click. Yeah, both of those RAM sticks went in a bit awkward, didn't they? You had to double click it. Anyway, they're in. So next we need our case. Move this out of the way. Right, so here we have our beautiful Corsair 220T case. I love this case. So first of all, we just want to get the front and back panel off so we can get in there. Okay, that's that off. Okay, then the back panel. There we go. Right, okay, let's just pull these cables out the back, get them out the way. And let's lie it down on its back so we can get the motherboard in. Right, so not all the standoffs are in the right place for this motherboard that we're using, so just going to move some of them around. Right, okay, standoffs all in place, and we need to get our I/O shield from the motherboard case and stick that in. Right, so that's going to come in here and click into place here. It's all in. Now we'll set our motherboard on top of the standoff, make sure it's all lined up with the I/O shield. Okay, these Corsair cases tend to have screws with a little ridge around them for the motherboard screws, like these. We'll just screw those in. Alright, this one at the top is always a little bit more fiddly with the RAM in the way and when you've got a tall cooler on there. There we go, motherboard's installed. Right, so next, and actually I should have really done this when the motherboard was out of the case, we're going to install the M.2 NVMe drive. Here it is. So I've just taken the screw out, going to slot it in there, push it in, click, get that tiny little fiddly screw again, screw that back in place. There we go. Right, so next I'm going to do some of the front panel connectors. So you'll see the cables up here that are connecting to the top of the case, which is going to be our on-off button, our USB ports, etc, etc. I need to plug those cables into the motherboard. Right, I'm not going to go through this in a lot of detail as to where I'm plugging everything in, because I've got separate videos you can watch for a detailed guide on how to build a PC. Right, so just starting off with our HD audio cable, plug that in over here. Alright, then our USB 3, it's going to go in there. Right, then we've got our front panel connectors, as in the power, on-off button, reset switch, etc. So these are the really little fiddly ones. So what have we got for this one? They don't always come with them all. So reset switch, power switch. So there's no HDD LED on this one, so that's fine. So reset switch first, because that's always easier to get on. Actually, I'm going to put that up through the same one as the USB to keep the cables a bit neater. My reset switch, there's my power switch. Plus and minus, I can always forget which way around they go. I think it's plus on the outside. Let's go with that first, then we'll double check in a minute. Okay, they're all in. Right, okay, so you might have noticed off camera I've just installed the fans at the front and the fan at the back. This case comes with the 3 SP20 RGB fans for the front. Doesn't come with an exhaust, so I've got an exhaust one, and obviously we put an SP120 on the cooler as well, so we're going to have nice RGB. So front fans, intake fans blowing air in, this fan also blowing air that way, exhaust fan at the back sucking all the air or blowing all the hot air out. Right, so as we are going with a hard drive in this PC as well, we need to install a SATA cable. So we'll stick that one at the bottom, SATA port, tuck that through there. Okay, I've got one more thing to come into the front, is the RGB hub from the case. It needs to plug in USB, where's that? Plug that into one of the USB ports. There we go, so that's everything plugged in the front. So next, let's go with the power supply. Right, so here we go, let's get the power supply in. Right, I never look forward to doing all this cable management, it's going to be a mess, but right, power supply. Okay, so we've got an Aerocool Cylon 700 watt. I've done a review, I'll tag the video up above of the Aerocool Cylon power supplies. I think they're really good for their price. It's an 80 plus rated, so it is still fairly decent, although it is a budget power supply. Yeah, there's never a lot of room in these cases when you've got the hard drive bay in there. If we had a bit more budget for this PC, we could have done a larger M.2 or a little SSD there, so then we could take the hard drive bay out, but it's fine. We're only going to have one hard drive in there, so we can use the bottom half of it for some cable management. Right, let's screw this in. Okay, power supply screwed in. Let's just do some wiring. Start off the CPU cable. This one here. It's going to go up. Okay, the motherboard cable. Keep it above this slot, I think. Where do we want it? This one probably. Let's just poke it through there first. Sort them around the front. Actually, we're better off having the motherboard coming up through the top one. Okay, let's get that to click in. Clicked into place nicely. CPU cable at the top. Bit fiddly with the tower cooler in place. I'm going to lie the PC down, it's easier. You won't see what I'm doing. Right, that's nicely clicked into place up there. Right, back round the back. What have we got? So we've got the GPU cable. Poke that through the bottom. Just going to poke that up to the front. So it's nicely tucked out the way. Right, so then we've got our two SATA and Molex cables. Right, so I'm sure we're only going to need one of those. What SATA have we got? So we're going to have a hard drive and the RGB. I think that's it. So I'm going to zip tie one of those up to tuck it away. Right, always got loads of zip ties in stock. There you go. Right, so I'm wondering if this might be one we can tuck. Yeah, let's just tuck it in there, out the way. Right, let's get our hard drive in next. Pull out this bay. Just going to go and screw the hard drive into that. Actually, it's a really nice hard drive bay. It doesn't actually need screwing in. It clips in there really nicely. Look at that. So now that can just slide in nice and easy. Then we've got our SATA cable. Plug that in there. Let's tuck that through. Give it a little bit of a bend. Not going to bend it too much. Right, and then this is where we need one of our SATA cables. SATA power cables, that is. This hard drive, so let's tuck that in there, plug that in, there we go. Let's tuck the rest of that through there, and all of it, the Molex bits at the end, tuck those through there. Then this one we'll use for the RGB hub, which is here, so let's tuck that one way back behind those. That can plug in to this one, and we'll tuck that all in under there. Right, so good. Right, so I do have a little fan hub because obviously we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fans in there. The CPU cooler has been plugged into the motherboard and the CPU fan header, but our motherboard doesn't have another 4 fan slots, so we've got a fan hub. So I'm going to plug this into one of the system fan or chassis fan headers on the motherboard, and then we can plug all our fans into that at the back. And then this is the RGB hub, so then the RGB side of the fans go into that. You can see on there it's actually got CPU, fan 1, 2, 3 and 4. So I'm actually going to plug this into the CPU fan header on the motherboard. Main reason for that, because our other system fan header is actually right in the middle of the motherboard here, which is going to be really annoying having this cable going across in the middle of the PC. So if we plug it into the CPU fan header, it's going to be much neater. Alright, yeah, it's never easy getting your fingers in there once you've got one of these tall coolers on there. Okay, good. Right, let's see if we can stick that anywhere. If we stick it there, it's probably not going to work. It's a bit annoying that they poke outwards cable's not really long enough, so I think it's going to have to be, thinking over here, because it slopes in a bit more there. I think we've got a bit more space. We'll try that. Let's see, let's plug all our fans into it and see what happens. No, I think it's going to have to tuck in the corner like that, which is fine. Right, so I've plugged all our fans into that little hub. There, that's stuck in there okay. Right, so I've been doing a little bit of work off camera. Right, I had to go at some cable management. It's not the best, but it's okay. So I've got all of the RGB plugged into the RGB hub. I think I started from 1 at the back. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the RGB will go that way. Bit messy up here, spaghetti junction up here with all the fans. But yeah, I kind of managed to tidy it down there a little bit. It's fairly neat around there, but yeah, it's probably the best I could do really in this case and my skills. But all good. Right, just need to put the front of the case back on. Okay, dust shield. Right, so we're ready for the GPU. Here it is. Let's get this open. And there she is. They come in such nice packaging. I'm always impressed with these. Yeah, lovely design. They feel so solid and chunky as well. Right, so in here we should have the cable somewhere. There it is. I only needed one 8-pin 3070. Did not know that. Okay, that makes things neater. Put this lovely box aside. Right, so let's quickly check which PCIe slots do we need. Okay, so I need to open these two. Right, make sure it's open. Slot it in place. Click it in. Again, that's never as satisfying click as I want it to be, but it's in. I'm going to lie it on its back because I prefer having it lie down to screw the graphics cards in nice and neat. Right, probably not the best angle, and yeah, look at all the mess. All these bloody bits of cable tie all over the place. Let's hold this in place and screw it in. Okay, so we only need one 8-pin like I said. Right, so the 8-pin has to go in here, then that goes in the actual graphics card. So we'll go with this end of this double 8-pin. Plug that in there, cable tie that. More bloody cable ties, but keeps it nice and neat. Plug that into the graphics card. That was in, not the most satisfying click. Right, so I should be able to tuck most of this cable away now. Actually, we just need to snip that bit of cable tie off. Can I find my snippers in all my mess? Of course I can. It's organised chaos. Right, let's stand it back up and I'll try and tidy that cable up. It is a shame, I'd say, about the fact you have to have this attachment for these Found Edition cards, because yeah, on a build like this where there's that much gap between the graphics card and your little slot where you're tucking the wires away, then yeah, we can't get away with not seeing this. We're stuck with it. That's alright. It's such a lovely, sleek looking card anyway, so can't complain, especially actually when you get it at proper retail price. So I paid obviously a lot less for that 3070 than a lot of people paying for standard 3060s. Not even the TI. Okay, good, so we're actually done. Right, so there we go. Build is done, everything's put together, cable managed. So I just need to tidy up some space so we can get it plugged in and fire it up. Right, now here we go, I've got it all plugged in. Here's the moment of truth. Now the NVMe's already got Windows installed on it because I had it on my test system before and installed Windows, so we should get good boot to Windows if this works. Let's switch it on at the back. Okay, looking good so far. Here we go. It's all the motherboard screen. Are we going to reach Windows? There we go. We're in. All good. The only thing I've spotted, show you, 2 of the fans at the front, RGBs, no RGB on there. They're spinning. So I wonder if I've not plugged them in the right order or not plugged them quite in properly on the RGB hub, so we'll fix that quick. Alright, here we go guys. Actually there was nothing wrong with it. I did open the back and have a look, but it turns out all I need to do is get iCue installed, and then it recognised all of the fans, so we're all good. So here we go. Got the rainbow effect on. So yeah, running well. Excellent. Right, so here we are. It's all built, ready, running, looks good. I don't know if you can tell, but this is another day. I've stuck the same jumper on, but it's probably obvious that it's not the same day. So yeah, what happened was, obviously you saw we turned it on, we booted it up, all was working. Where did I get to? So we had 2 fans at the bottom that weren't working, but it turned out I just needed to install iCue. Fine, so everything got working. And then when I was running some tests, I saw that in Task Manager, it was a different CPU to what I thought it was. So I don't know if anyone noticed in the video, and I'm not sure if you can tell, I haven't gone through back to actually look if you can actually see what it says on the CPU that I put in there. But the CPU was a Ryzen 3, what was it, a 2200G, which is obviously not the Ryzen 5 3600 that I thought I was putting in there. So what's happened was, I had a box, so I bought it second hand off eBay. Came in a Ryzen 5 3600 box. The CPU came covered in thermal paste. So I didn't even think to check it. I should really check these things as soon as I buy them. I bought it nearly a month ago. It's been sitting there waiting for the graphics card so we can actually do a build. And yeah, it turns out I got in touch with the lady who I bought it from on eBay. It turns out she's selling it for her son. They'd sent his PC into a shop to get some upgrades, and they upgraded the CPU, and they gave her her old CPU back in the new CPU box. So when she stuck it on eBay, she thought she was selling what it said on the box. So honest mistake. She's part refunded me. We decided I'd keep it anyway, I can use it for a future build, and she's just part refunded me the difference on what we think the value of the 2 different CPUs are. So that worked out well. And I had a Ryzen 5 3600X, so I've used that for this build instead. So slightly better than the 3600 we were going to use, so we've got the 3600X. So I've changed that around, put that in. While I was doing some more tests and checks, I don't know if anyone with sharp eyes noticed that the fan at the back, the exhaust fan, I had actually put in the wrong way around, so it wasn't exhausting, it was blowing air in from the back. So obviously I've sorted that out, swapped that round, so that's now a proper exhaust fan. And then the fan hub, so you know I had that little fan hub in there, I didn't like it, I've changed that out, because thinking about it, I had that little fan hub hooked to one of the fan outputs on the motherboard, and I had 5 fans running off it, and that's really too many fans to run off of one port. It's just not going to be enough power to go into them. So I've swapped that out for a fan hub that has its own SATA power as well, so it's got enough power coming out. So I've got the CPU fan plugged onto the CPU header of the motherboard, and I've got the fan hub plugged in with SATA power, and the actual hub that I've got, you can control the speed of the fans on the actual hub. So there we go, bit of an update. So a few things I did behind the scenes, but now it's all good, ready to go. Looks nice, performs well, and that's it. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Please do give us a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.